Calling the meeting to order. So we need to approve the previous meeting minutes. Do we need to have Daniel here in order to do that, Carrie,
You
or
have
no?
quorum with two.
Okay, with two. So
I will make a motion to approve our last meeting minutes as is.
okay, thank you, Sierra. And I will second that. And uh I guess we'll vote on approving. Yes,
Oh,
aye.
here's Daniel.
Aye.
Approved and passed to move ahead with those meeting minutes. Thank you for putting those together. Hello, Daniel. We've just kicked things off. Good to have you here. Also need to see if we received any public comment for today's meeting. Nope, no received comments. Okay, thank you. Moving ahead into our next part of our agenda, our director report out. So we'll have Carrie, our director, go ahead and give us a report of all the things, all the things.
It's just going to be all the things. Yeah, so I'm going to cover some quick updates on what's going on with the lawsuits, our programs, funding and whatnot. Some upcoming events that, we're doing around our programming and so forth. Some of the impacts that we're seeing as a result of various federal actions and budget issues that are happening for the state that I wanted to share because it does affect operations for the commission and meetings and so forth. And then hopefully the final version or final draft of what to do with the state service plan and annual meeting that's had to pivot quite a bit as well, so that I will present that at the end. So first I wanted to give a quick update on the federal lawsuits and the funding status. I think as last as we spoke, the motions had been filed to have OMB release the federal funds that were being withheld. That ended up happening without the court necessarily needing to intervene. The through discussions and whatnot, that was able to work out. So we received our commission investment fund, our KIF grant, which is one of our operating funds that we were waiting on, operating grants we were waiting on. And then the other branches that were waiting on funding also received their grants. So like the senior programs that we know that were being impacted, the national directs and so forth. So that all was resolved. As of right now, things are pretty much status quo. There isn't that I could tell or that I've heard of a next hearing date right now coming up, and generally as I said, it's just kind of in status quo. There was a recent filing from the defendants on a motion to stay that was just granted. Essentially they can't really proceed and maybe meet some standard or scheduled status reports because of the government shutdown. So there was something filed to basically say we're in a government shutdown. So can we just sort of like hold tight? And that was granted. So nothing else really to report on that right now. I do want to share that we're being charged for this. OregonServes is being charged for this for DOJ time and whatnot. And so that's just something that we're keeping an eye on on how much we're accessing those sort of services and whatnot, because this is just as other states and other departments that are all involved in these federal lawsuits, this is time and money that we're spending. So just something that we're being aware of, and in the impact and sort of burden that we're putting on state general funds and the heck with that. But just wanted to mention that. I wanted to talk about AmeriCorps program updates real quick. So we did we received our formula funds. That was never something that we were being negatively impacted by. Those weren't funds that were being withheld or whatnot. We did host a grantee orientation a few weeks ago. That was really great. We have a much shrunk portfolio. I think as we had almost a complete grantee portfolio turnover. We had at least three 2 to 3 decades long grantees who are no longer running programs and part of our portfolio. So we lost all of that. We had some programs where their funding came through and they simply, didn't have, their staff had been laid off. They couldn't accept those grants any longer. Or What we're seeing now is even some of the ones who were part of our portfolio are starting to need to. We've had a couple of have actually had to leave, a couple of the new ones, because maybe in some cases the other federal funds that they were bringing to the table as a required match is not stable, or is not available. So there's just a lot of different things that are happening in so many different directions and levels with grantees that, while we might have the funding and be able to provide support, there's things happening in other other areas of their funding life and programming life that just make this difficult to meet the moment with that AmeriCorps program. So, or meet their responsibilities. So as of right now, we do have these 6 grantees. We were able to, Confluence, by the way, is the one who we still have from our previous portfolio, but all the others are brand new. And uh what I was gonna say, so we were able to put, because we weren't going to be spending all of our grant allocation or state allocation, we were able to put some of that on placeholder status, so we're able to still, run some planning grant funding opportunities and some general programming opportunities to bring on, maybe new programs, but at shorter time periods. So that is all going well, and so I will be putting out and sharing out a resource that's just showing where these programs are mapped around the state, mapping that to, who's in sort of which commission members, like areas and things like that. And I know that they're all very interested to meet the commission. There's a lot of excitement with this group. I mean, it's kind of an interesting dynamic when you've got all new grantees, and I will say that the energy is elite, and just really excited they're really excited to like partner with each other and lean on each other and be part of this cohort together and learn more and meet you all. So we'll definitely be sure to make that happen. A few things that we're doing as well. We are going to utilize Ask to assist us with facilitating a virtual kickoff, as well as we are going to this year implement a standard emergency response training for programs and members. This is going to be a series of online trainings, and we want to do this so that we can, as you know, we didn't get our staffing finalized or made permanent for our disaster services position. So we still have, still part of the state plan and still have that responsibility. And so we want to make sure we're building that capacity, that we're making sure that if a disaster happened and AmeriCorps needed to be deployed, that we're doing this training, in lieu of not having that position, that we're going to utilize Ask to actually provide those trainings for us and just kind of get everybody up to speed, explain the history of AmeriCorps and providing services during a disaster and managing volunteers during a disaster. And just make sure that we're not in a situation where we're like, hey, you should deploy, we need you to deploy, redirect these members. And everybody's like, what do we do? What is this, what is this for and how does this work? So we're just gonna, try to really be proactive about getting that knowledge base built up out there on that topic. So those are a few things that we're doing to sort of mitigate the issues of having some of those staffing cuts and not being able to rehire some of those staff. Another thing I want to report that's going really great is our Youth Mental Health Corps. As you know, we received that $500,000 2-year grant. We had a lot of interested partners that, again, sort of what's going on out there with federal actions and funding and so forth. A lot were unable to continue. AmeriCorps definitely took a reputational hit as well. We are fighting against the idea that AmeriCorps shut down. That is an idea that is out there because of those original, grant 2024 grant terminations. So I just have to say, like, kudos to Madeline doing so much outreach and so much constant pivoting to, just continue to find partners to do this and really important work with us because we have this funding to implement these programs. There is some hesitancy from partners, like, do we do this year? And then what if it goes away next year and this and that? But the great news is that we have these are non-federal, non-state funds. These are private funds, so we will have that for 2 to 3 years. We have one program that did continue on called Stronghold. They are a peer-led tribal program in Klamath. And they started small with just 5 members. They are going to increase that because they've had just a lot of success with people interested, which is fantastic. And then you'll see probably later on today where I'll post a LinkedIn, an article about them. The Youth Mental Health Corps, the national initiative with Schultz and Pinterest and so forth, is putting a lot of support into marketing. And so they're doing a lot of, outreach to various media outlets for the different states that are part of the Youth Mental Health Corps and getting us set up. So we actually have an upcoming Think Out Loud segment that I'm helping coordinate. I was supposed to do a Jefferson Public Radio interview the other week. I was really sick last week. I did not have a voice for radio unless they wanted a husky cougher to be talking on the radio, husky voiced and coughing. But they ended up letting me submit some written answers, and then they did do a recorded interview with Stronghold, and that article came out today. I'll put the link in the chat, and I'll post it and stuff. So that was really fun. And we have Fox News and a few others who are really interested. So that's been great that they're like doing that legwork for us. So right now, we want to get up to we want to increase our number of members for this year so we don't have to take a cut on that grant. And right now it sounds like we're gonna hit our original target. Madeline has done a lot of work recently, and I think we're gonna bring on 3 or 4 new partners, a couple of school districts, a couple of nonprofits. So really excited about that. Um, the other thing I would just mention is National Governors Association. We're still working on that policy academy work. It kind of took like a large pause. We have our summit coming up next month in Salt Lake City to meet with the other cohorts, other governor's office reps and whatnot. We're going to be asking to extend that service to career pathway grant. We just didn't really get as far as we wanted over this last time period. We're still trying to get some of our contracts for stakeholder engagement and all of that set up. So we just need more time. So we're going to extend that. They've said that's fine. And we want to make sure that we can use our private funds before this grant was supposed to end by the end of the year, because my next topic is to talk about budget constraints. um, so you've probably seen it in the news and or in your life through whatever, various connections that state of Oregon budget's kind of going through it. We are seeing loss of federal funds for various reasons. We know that there were some issues for funding for like ODOT in this past session, and that there's different things that are going to be needed to make up for some additional initiatives and funding needs there. So we had a couple, 3 weeks ago, maybe, learned that out-of-state travel was going to be restricted for state employees, the commission board members, etc. In-state to be limited. That has expanded its scope, I guess you could say, over the last few weeks into not really any state travel, in-state or out-of-state travel. And it is likely that we also are going to receive pullback of general funds. So what that means for us is we are not going to be able to rehire open positions. We're going to be able to leverage, though, some OE existing staff members to kind of help us with our like community engagement and outreach positions. So that's great. But we are going to need to cut some of our planned expenditures. A lot of that's going to come out of that. We're not going to be able to do some travel. I don't think it's going to be too bad for us, because there were some items in our budget that were not going to be able to happen anyways because of the delays with the federal funding, the AmeriCorps program, just things that aren't going to line up or make sense anymore. That we already were going to be able to, sort of modify that budget in that sense. But we are going to need to move a lot, like some of our stuff and our expenditures, our staffing costs and so forth, out of our general fund and onto our federal grants more. That's something I'm working on. We're supposed to know more next week around how much each program at each agency is going to be asked to reduce their general funds. For us, as you know, there is a limit to where we can go down because we have a required match for our federal grants, our federal operating grants. And that match comes through our state fund grants. So I think we're going to do okay. And I think that a lot of what we where the savings are going to be made are things that I was already eyeing need to making, that I was already eyeing to make some adjustments due to it not necessarily being feasible anymore anyhow. But I will keep you posted on that. However, one of the things that greatly affects then is that I have been told not to have in-person commission meetings. It was the case that we expected, to have the annual commission meeting in person. Um, and that is no longer going to be an option. I know, Sierra. um, and Yeah, it makes me think like for those of us like maybe where people do live in similar areas, we could still get together as teams when we're doing the virtual like meetings and be able to get together that way, but just on our own. But I had talked to Kyra about this. And as you know, I was exploring Kyra from Ask, facilitating discussion for state service plan development. We were really leaning into maybe we probably need to shorten that as far as like creating a new 3-year vision, really think about doing like a 1-year update or addendum to the existing plan. Um, had some really good conversations with her about that we're not alone in wanting to do that. That is what she said a lot of other commissions are doing. She's got quite a list of commission facilitation that she's signing up to do to help people talk through these conversations. Many are also taking the approach of not doing a full like survey engagement, things like that, but just relying kind of ultimately on data they already have. I don't dislike that approach because I do think that when you open that up, you are kind of making promises you're going to be able to do something with that and like have, like an imagination of what you can do with that and be able to fill those gaps that you're hearing about, right? And I think if you're utilizing people's time and energy and thought that way, that, there's an exchange to happen there and we can't really make that exchange in a lot of ways. So we do, though, have a lot of good data. We have Civic Health Index. We've got our various assessments, workplace assessments, ask assessments, AmeriCorps assessments, a lot of different things, points of light surveys, all of that. So I think we're in a good spot to keep this a little bit more internal with that very communicated promise that like, that's not, this would be a full event for the next time, full engaged, inclusive event. So she had given me some dates for all day session where she could facilitate that discussion and then follow up with public policy committee to sort of talk about identifying some legislative concepts out of all of that work and so forth. So the couple of things that, and I'm going to stop talking here in a second, the couple of things that I'm then now trying to figure out, since I just learned yesterday, my plan just changed yesterday for you all. What I'm trying to figure out is what that could look like as virtual sessions. She'd given me like the 24th and the 31st and maybe some mid-November dates for in person, like a 1 day, all day. Now, if we go to virtual, what I am seeing is that we already have a public policy committee virtual meeting on the 24th. We also already have a commission meeting on November 14th, virtual. So an idea could be to utilize the public policy committee meeting that a few of us already have on our calendar, maybe extend that for people if they, think about maybe like we could extend it and have like a first part be the bigger conversation and then like the second part or vice would be the public policy discussion. Schedule then something, in on the 31st or a different date. I have to still check in with Kyra to figure out what other virtual dates might exist, with the idea that November 14th could maybe be the final. We could also use that, to approve any updates. We could also use that then for also the approval of like the new manual, the other bylaw changes, and et cetera, that we've been working on out of membership committee, and then finally use that November 14th scheduled date for the elections. So I'm going to stop there and just see if you have any questions or reactions to this loosely somewhat vague, but I'm trying to make it more specific plan for how to achieve these goals of ours.
Thank you, Carrie. Regarding dates, I like the idea if there's already something for public policy to see if we can convene and work. Looks like Daniel too. Thinks
Yeah,
that
because I
might be a
know
good
at
idea.
least Daniel, Shanika, Craig, and Sierra would have that date on their calendar. And then everybody would have the 14th on their calendar as well. And Kyra can't do the 14th, so that makes sense to just keep that as our normal thing and lead up to that.
So it looks like maybe moving ahead with the 24th, taking that public policy time to start that. And then the 14th. The 14th is not a great day for me because there's an event, but I can pop in. Like I can
Yeah.
make it work, but I need to just get like what time, like after 12 o'clock that day, I'm good.
Yeah, the 14th would pretty much be like a voting agenda day of
Yeah.
like approving a bunch of stuff. So we can coordinate that. And it's to set, I think that's that. When is that schedule? What's the time on
I
that?
think
Can you I'm just following or echoing Sierra's comment, but with so many numbers being thrown out in the chat, Carrie, could you put the date and time of what you're proposing? That way I can cross-check it with my calendar at the same time.
Yeah, so okay.
Thank you.
So November 14th is commissions, like standard commission meeting, 11 to 12:30. And then October 24th is that public policy meeting. Also, Daniel, I put the link to the Jefferson Public Radio article in there in the chat. So the so 1 to 2 is the public policy committee meeting. I'm wondering like if that's something like if we could extend it like 11:30 to 2 or something like that. And,
mhm.
that kind of gives a little bit more time and range. And I think covers a bunch of it because you can make it more accessible for people, add a little bit of time on for like maybe some intro stuff, but also not too long because it's virtual.
I think that's a great idea. I don't know what other folks.
And that's one of those things that if people can be on at least in like portions, that could work.
Mm-hmm.
And she has additional time. And so I want to also explain. So these are not all public meetings, actually. We would revise some of that time. I mean, we're using these dates that are on the calendar. November 14th would stay one, but I don't think that the like work session kind of talk it out stuff, decisions not be, I'm not positive if that has to be public or not. So that may not be. And then if there's specifically like a drafting work session that happens in the meantime, that like if particular people agree to like do the second meeting and it's not everybody, like we can also set that up as like a work session to meet people's schedules, like something in between that 24th and 14th and stuff. So
I think let's move ahead with the 24th.
mm-hmm.
Maybe if there's something in between the 24th and the 14th that she could do, because that's what, 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's not
Maybe.
a lot. We're definitely
And if she
quick
had,
timer.
you said she had the 31st,
Mm-hmm.
like
That was
that would
another one. So yeah.
give a week.
And like as a work session kind of
Yeah,
follow
I
up.
mean, I'm open to that on Halloween. All the spooky things.
Yeah, I'll follow up and see what that might work for her then. But I think
Sierra and
that
Daniel, how is the 31st for you? If
I
we,
could make that work if we needed to do that. Yeah.
okay.
I am checking of this month, right?
Yeah, 31st of October.
Time.
We don't have one.
I have windows of time on that day, so it could work.
And Carrie, just to throw it out there, and Daniel, for you, like the 14th is really going to be a struggle for me because of I'm presenting like to hundreds of high school students that day, which is great. But Daniel, we might need to have you chair that one. I
Yeah,
don't know. I've just looked at the schedule again. I forgot we extended it into like 1 o'clock time period. Um, and that's going to be hard for me to get out of on the 14th. But just FYI,
yeah, no
Daniel
worries.
could be in the chair.
That one's all clear for me. The 14th is all clear, so I can more than happy to help lead. And then the other dates proposed, I already had it for the 24th, and I might need to pop in and out at some point, but then same thing with the 31st. I could make some windows of time work throughout that day.
Great. Me too.
Great. I think that's what I needed. I can follow up on this, and get this all confirmed. And I think this is the best case scenario for, the situation and the constant new information that's coming in and new
Yeah.
directives and things. So that is awesome. I
Is
wanted
there
to
anything
kind
else?
of mention just a couple of other things.
Sure.
I think just framing kind of some of the legislative concept development pieces that we would want to come out of these efforts. It's probably going to be a pretty hard ask to like ask for any money or
Yeah.
positions during, an upcoming session where we're under these kinds of restrictions. But I think that this is also really such a great thing to be utilizing ask to come in, because we know that they are leading so much and have been such a support network for development of those non-fiscal benefits that can support our work, things that can increase member benefits and grantee benefits and so forth. We'll be bringing in that federal perspective of what's going on, and what other states are doing around the country. But that is a limitation I think we're going to have to keep in mind and kind of get creative with, of thinking like, are there going to be any legislative asks and what's like realistic. But this is certainly going to be a time where, as we know, it's often difficult even during what might appear to be a surplus year, to necessarily have a HEC sponsored bill out there. And so I think more than ever, this is going to be the time where legislative champions are going to be needed, if there's something that we do want to see go forward. I'm waiting on the updated legislative calendar as well, so I'll definitely have available before any of this work gets done that as well, so we kind of know the parameters and deadlines too. And it may be that we don't have any legislative concept, maybe, and we don't know, or it may be that we're focusing more policy development at a community partnership level. So I'm not sure.
Maybe if I can interject with that, I think also maybe, are there any HEC sponsored asks that we can tag on
Right.
to
Mhm.
that, yeah, so
Or other state agencies that seem to do okay year to year in the session, that do seem to get things.
yeah.
You never know. But yeah, really good point. I think I will share that the HEC is currently doing their strategic plan implementation right now, and they are doing a process that is different than they've ever done before, which is where they have taken every um, uh, goal and broke it down into individual initiatives with teams that are representing various sectors within the HEC. And I'm on one of them, and will represent volunteerism and service, and civic engagement. Rhonda's been on some, Julia's been on some, but it's really probably the most inclusive way that I have seen them implement the state plan before. Just making sure that people from every department and unit are part of these conversations. And then ultimately what these teams do is they put forth recommendations for how to reach that goal, for what initiatives should be put in place, that the HAC Commission then adopts. And so I think, you know, probably this is the best year for that to possibly, you know, be a
Mhm.
possibility to really be seen and noticed and thought of as being someone that needs to be at the table for like discussing those sorts of legislative concepts on a broader level at the HEC. So it's
Okay.
really good. One thing I just wanted to mention really quick too. Oh, and also I do believe that us as a legislator is going to pick up the Orvid
Oh, good.
conversation again. So having talks on that, and that's really nice. I do want to also just let you know that we have a couple of new commission members that were just appointed, and one person who is a senior representative from Southern Oregon, and then we also have our 16 to 25 year old from Metro Portland. And I'll be sending out email announcements and base camp welcomes and so forth to them. We are still under our required amount of commission members and still doing outreach for that. But I wanted to share, and I can't remember if I did this before, that now more than ever, there's really some push and so forth adherence to making sure we're really having more diverse political parties on the commission, which is a
Mhm.
challenge. It's not, you know, necessarily not doable, but it does require a lot more, you know, sort of outreach and partnership building and time that, you know, has been sort of a little bit of a capacity issue for this. But we have received notice no more appointments unless they're of other political parties because we've hit the 50% majority. Um, and that is it's a little challenging during some of these divisive times right now. And so but I know that there are people that, you know, across the spectrum that do believe in this work. So I just want to put it out there, you know, as you're kind of meeting people and spreading the word about you know, serving on the commission and whatnot, to keep in mind no more you know, we can't have any more Democrats or working Billy stuff. We definitely are seeking more Republican, independent, and so forth, so that we can balance out that political party a little bit more. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that, and please send your ideas for any outreach to me. That'd be great. We have some people on hold that want to serve, but we can't until the numbers are different. And so we have to kind of hope that they'll stick around. I think they will, but be great to you know, get our numbers up, but also have that diversity, you know, and on here. And so any ideas that you have, please let me know.
Okay. Good.
So we
Thank
may end
you.
10 minutes early to which gives
And
Sierra
it
the cushion
sounds
she
like,
needs.
so sort of leading to like commission agenda planning, like, so dates, do we need to do much planning around the agenda?
That kind
And
of was it.
yeah,
But I would love to hear from you. I can say that generally I think what the meeting with Kyra about would sort of be like talking about current landscape, sort of synthesizing results, sharing them and talking, and then reviewing the state plan and saying like, you know, what needs to stay on here, what needs to come off. I mean, you know, different things like that. We'll have a further agenda from her, like once this gets a
okay.
little bit more solidified. But if there's anything else that you think is important to talk about, yeah, I would love to hear that. Especially maybe around like any thoughts around if we're not doing you know, community engagement surveys and things like that, another way to like include viewpoints that you think need to be there.
Okay.
Well, we'd like to have elections in November. So I think I
November.
need to hear from Daniel, like his thoughts, and then do some, you know, communications within the current group to see what positions we actually need to fill and who's interested.
Yeah, and getting that out in advance of that November 14th, I think would be good. Just so we have a
Right.
good feel of what folks, so they know too. I think stepping into it, especially for new folks, it's like, well, what does that mean? What does that involve? Like letting them know what it means to be whatever on the board, and just so we can get some buy-in there.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking about, Heidi. At that 24th meeting, even if it's just 5 minutes uh, so we can say a couple of words to try to encourage folks to sign up and nominate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Ditto. And then one is just curiosity, Carrie, but on the uh topic that you were mentioning about political affiliation, I'm wondering a solution would be to really think outside the box of like a two-party system and really just say that like it's multiple, like diverse political affiliations. And so maybe it's
Yeah, it
not
can be
one or
any,
the
just
other, right? So it's like
no
folks
more
that are
Democrat.
independent, folks that might, so like really like thinking outside the box that way, because I do think there's um bipartisanship or
Mm-hmm.
diverse partisanship within like different folks that we can like agree on like mission and values of like the work of the service. And then the other thing that I was going to mention is I would love if part of the conversation on the agenda that we could have of the state service plan and like what are we doing with during these times with what we have is a little bit of brainstorming of like community-based solutions. And that's something that I mean I work with every
Mm-hmm.
single day working in the nonprofit field, but I've been in a situation where you have to do a lot, and I think Sierra can agree with this. You have to do a lot with a little bit. And what that could look like for our work, right, is like instead of doing site visits and expecting you to travel all over the state and do site visits, and maybe we don't have the budget for that, we really do community-based approach and say like, hey, like where does everyone live? Where do all the commissioners live? And can we have you like, can we delegate this type of thing to like visit your neighborhood like sites and then do a report out? And that kind of like was something on my mind recently. Like I live so close to a really great program, the and it escapes me every time, like the official
Heart of Oregon?
part of Oregon Corps.
Mm-hmm.
And they're out here in Sisters, and I
Yeah.
touched base with them for the first time at a summit that I went to during the summer. And I said, like, hey, I serve on this commission and I see y'all's name and I see your work, but I think we have yet to just like say hello to each other. So
Yeah, that's
those
great. I love
type of
that idea.
solutions where it's like, hey, how do we do this delegate and do this together versus like relying on traditional like we'll just pay Carrie to do it or someone on the OregonServes team to do X, Y, and Z. Like, how can we all help each other out in this? Kind of like a brainstorming session. I don't think we can come up with solutions, but like let's get some ideas out there, knowing that we might need to pivot a little bit more with the current landscape of the budget and freezing of federal funds like every now and then. So just kind of like a backup plan of ideas is a really I think a worthwhile session of that day.
I think that's great because I think, it's not the state service plan is not only just the vision, but it is also our, it's a succession plan as well.
Mhm.
It needs to
Mm-hmm.
serve as that as well. And that plan be, some backup
I do
ideas
like
and some
that
planning. I
idea
love that
also.
idea.
Can I ask, for the commission, are there, what are the specific roles we're needing to fill? So we have the 16 to 25, that's being filled.
So, yeah, and then Carrie will move into labor. And
Okay,
then Cassie will now cover seniors. So it
okay,
is
great.
continuing to figure out who to get from the Department of Education to attend.
They have to work for
Yeah, for the
DOE?
State Department of
Okay,
Education.
okay.
Or what branch makes sense from that.
And
Also
Carrie,
business is one. Sorry, go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
I can't remember if the categories that I fill are statutory or if they were sort of handed afterwards.
Yours and Shanika's are non-statutory.
Okay, so we don't have
Um,
to worry about that. Okay,
mm-mm.
just filling the chair role.
I know a couple folks at DOE I'll reach out to, and if they aren't interested, they may have recommendations for folks too.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's typically, I mean, it's listed as the head of the Department of Education, but that's never been who has served. It's always been,
Yeah,
the someone from a program within the department, and that's been great and fine. It's just
right.
been kind of figuring out like what that aligns with because um historically kind of where we were partnering is not necessarily as relevant now. And then also I think I said business and there's a couple others. I don't know, I would need to take a look. But I
Okay.
can
Tribal,
get you all.
Tribal.
Yes, that's not one of
representation.
the statutory ones, but one of our priority ones.
It's not statutory. I don't think I realized that. That's interesting.
Mm-mm.
Hmm.
Okay, that's good to
No,
know.
but we've just recently, I just did a whole realignment of all the positions and different things with the Office of Appointments. So we have a whole new sort of spreadsheet and dashboard on that I can send out. That kind of shows that. So yeah.
Great. Okay, looking at time, just want to see, is there anything else in closing? Action items, it sounds like we're gonna see what we can do for scheduling those dates that we spoke about. Um, considering other folks to serve commission roles. Maybe Carrie, when you send out maybe the next, or whomever sends out the next form of communications, just like at the next meeting, we are looking at doing elections to fill these roles and what those roles do. We have like a synopsis of what each
Mhm.
role, just maybe
Yes.
including that.
And I think, Daniel, I don't know if you're comfortable letting me know now, if you could send me an email or a text or whatnot of what you are thinking about, for next year, because that's one of the open questions I have.
Okay. And is there anything else before we adjourn?
I think we're good.
Thank you, Ashley, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All the way
Appreciate
from
you.
Eugene.
Oh, yay. And
you all.
we will likely meet again on the 24th, but I'm not putting like we'll wait for that to come around.
Yes.
So
Sounds good.
we will go ahead and adjourn at 12:59.
Bye, y'all.
Happy Friday. Happy fall.
Thanks, y'all.
Have a
Bye.
great weekend. Gracias. Ciao.